Hello everyone and welcome to the second lecture for week 12 in our listening and speaking course. In our previous lectures we discussed types of spoken language like small talks, conversations and interviews, and in today's lecture we're going to discuss two more types of spoken language, which are discussions and presentations. Okay, let's start. Okay, let's start with discussions. So, what is a discussion in English? Okay, a discussion is an occasion when participants can express opinions or ideas clearly and accurately to other participants in the discussion. It's an expression of opinions and ideas clearly and accurately to other participants in the discussion. يعني imagine we're discussing a specific topic مثلا أهمية الإنترنت في حياتنا فرضا you express your opinions or ideas to other participants in a discussion. The main purpose of a discussion is to express or exchange opinion on the topic being discussed. طبعا the main idea or main purpose, the aim of the discussion is to express your opinion, تمام, and exchange ideas with others. صح, to see how people think or what they think about a certain topic or a specific thing. Okay, a participant is expected to express his or her own point of view, not to repeat information he has got from books or other resources. Again, the idea is to express your own point of view, your own opinion, and not to repeat memorized ideas from books or other resources. So the idea is to be able to think and state your own opinion or point of view. Okay? Okay, let's now look at some discussion sub-skills or things you need to consider when you participate in a discussion. Number one, ability to participate confidently. And this is very important. You should be confident, have confidence in your ideas, don't feel shy, and feel free to express them confidently. Okay? Number two, appropriate turn taking and sensitivity to other people's ideas. وهذا طبعا another important thing, turn taking, you participate and you let others participate too. You don't talk all the time, or you don't dominate the discussion. Okay, and try to be sensitive to other people's ideas. Don't make fun of them and respect everyone else's ideas. Okay, ناخد دور ونحترم آراء الغير. Number three, evidence of considerable reflection on issues under discussion. Okay, and this means that in your discussion and when you express your ideas, you should show that you have thought about these ideas considerably. إنه كان عندك في كتير، يعني يكون مبين من آرائك إنه في تفكير كتير فيها، إنه you thought about this issue a lot and you show this depth of thinking or this considerable reflection in your expression of ideas. Okay, and the next point is ability to take in the ideas of fellow participants and building on them. Ability to take in the ideas of fellow participants and building on them. Yes, to accept others' ideas, to understand their ideas and then build on them. Develop your discussion based on these ideas or based on others' ideas. Okay, and the next point, ability to formulate logical and coherent arguments. Yes, and this means that your discussion should be relevant to the argument, or your ideas should be logical and relevant to the discussion or to the topic of discussion. don't deviate and don't go to another totally different topic when you are involved in a specific discussion. Okay, and the last point, ability to sum up conclusion reached. Yes, you should be able to sum up or have a conclusion of whatever you've reached to. I mean, you should be able to understand how the discussion ends or what the conclusion is from this discussion. Okay, يعني نفهم النقاش وين راح على إيش انتهى. تمام. إذن again, these sub-skills include ability to participate confidently. You should be confident of your ideas and opinion. You should take turns. You let others take turns as well, and you should be sensitive to others' opinions. You should respect their opinions, and you should also show a kind of deep thinking or considerable reflection of the ideas you're talking about. You should show that you have thought about them a lot, and you should be able to take others' ideas, to understand them and build on them, develop them. Okay, you should also be able to be or formulate logical arguments or relevant arguments in the discussion. يعني you talk about things that relate to the topic of the discussion. And the last one, you should be able to understand the conclusion of the discussion or how this discussion ends. Okay? Now, let's see the fifth type of spoken language, which is presentations. And we all know what a presentation is. And at some point in our life, whether during studying at university or maybe at work, you'll be required to make a presentation. Okay? As I said, whether as part of your study or as part of your work task or responsibilities. Okay? طيب, to introduce an effective presentation or a successful presentation, the following points should be taken into consideration. You should consider these points, which are: number one, being clear about your objective, and this is the first and most important rule. Okay, you should be clear about your objective. What is your objective from this presentation? And as I've just said, it should be clear, because if you yourself are not clear about the main message of your presentation, then your audience will find your presentation confusing. So if you're not clear about your main message, then this will confuse the audience, okay? Or this will make things difficult for them to understand, okay? Okay, so you need to specify the objective precisely, okay? You need to specify the objective precisely. And when you decide, once you decide your objective or objectives, you have to take into account, you have to think about what you know about the topic, what you already know, and what your audience knows. Okay? You need to be able to understand what you know. You should have an idea of what you know and what your audience knows. عشان يعني ما نعطيهمش معلومات في النهاية هم مش بحاجتها. So if they don't need this information, so what's the point in presenting it to them? Okay? Okay, the second point that you should take into consideration is that you should select the content that matches the purpose of the presentation. You should select the content that matches the objective of your presentation. Okay? Organize the content in a clear and logical order. Okay? You have to present it or show it clearly and in a logical order. تمام? The third point is use signposts and language signals to present the organized content clearly to your listeners. Now, what's the meaning of signposts and language signals؟ اللي هم بكتبش presentation dash برم. I try to use headings, subheadings. If I'm talking, for example, about the advantages of the internet, I just write advantages of the internet as a subheading or as a title, and then below I can mention a list of these advantages. Okay, so signposts and language signals make it easy for the audience to follow up with you and to see the content in a more organized way and more clearly. تمام؟ يعني زي إشارات بتوضح لي أنا وين، أنا في أي جزئية، أنا عن إيش بتكلم، عناوين. تمام؟ طيب point number 4, using familiar information structures helps the audience to follow your presentation more easily. تمام؟ وهنا I use structures that are familiar to the audience, that are easy, and that make the presentation easier to follow up. Okay, so use familiar information structures, easy information structures, so that the audience find it easy to keep track with you. Okay, and the last point, at the end, state your main results and then offer a brief comment on the results before inviting questions. State your main results, and this is very important to do at the end, to sum up your ideas or the results, and then offer a brief comment on the results before inviting questions. Ask them if they want to comment or add anything, and this you invite questions. You ask them if they have any questions, and you make some space or time for discussion. Okay, let's now have a look at how we can organize the information in a presentation. As you may know now, it is very important that the information is presented clearly, okay, and in a way that doesn't confuse the audience. And to organize information, you should take some points into consideration, and these points or things include: number 1, most important to least important. So this is how you organize or put your information in order of the most important to the least important. So you always start with the most important information, and also general to particular. You start generally and then you narrow things down and you become more specific or more particular. And also one point of view compared with another point of view. You try to compare ideas, opinions, points of views, so that this also makes it easier for the audience to understand different ideas. And the last point is that you should use signposts, and we've just mentioned this. You should use expressions and language to tell the audience that, okay, now we're here, now we're talking about this topic. You don't just put lines or sentences without any signposts or subheadings or headings. Okay, and again, in organizing the information and to present it clearly, you should mention the most important information, and then you mention the least important. You should start talking generally, and then you narrow the information down to become more specific, and also try to compare points of views together. And the last one, try to use signposts. Okay. Now, the conclusion what should you say in a conclusion, or what things you should take into account when it comes to the conclusion? Let's see. Okay, the conclusion should round off the topic by إيش يعني should summarize the topic. Okay, by number 1, stating the main points again. In the conclusion, it's very important that you state or say the main points or ideas again. Evaluating the importance of the information. Okay, you try to explain or illustrate how important this information is for the audience. Okay, and also you round off the topic by formulating some conclusions and or recommendations. You can come up with some conclusions after this presentation, or maybe recommendations, things you would like to suggest or recommend. Okay, and the last point, you can round off the topic by leaving the audience with a strong take-home message. So as a presenter, you present something with an objective in mind, with a purpose, or to make an impression within your audience. So it's very important that when you end your presentation, you leave a very strong take-home message. You leave a good impression, a strong impression in them, so that they never forget about this presentation. Okay, so you leave the audience with something to take home, with something to stay with them even after this presentation ends. Okay, now let's have a look at some expressions that we can use in presentations. I mean spoken expressions, some of the language that we can use. Okay, the first group of expressions is we can use them to rephrase the main point. Okay, what's the meaning of rephrase? Is to say something in a again, or in different words. Okay, so to rephrase the main point, you may say, number 1, that is to say. Okay, tamam. So now what we have is, again, you're trying to explain or say something in different words, and you can use the point I am making is, the idea I am discussing is. This is what we mean by the expression. And you can also use, let me put that another way. Let me put that another way. Let me explain this in a different way, in another way. Okay? Oh, in other words, and this is clear, okay, in different words, as I have been saying, and you complete or go on saying your idea. Okay? Now, some expressions to introduce an example. To give an example, you can say, let me illustrate by referring to. Let me illustrate, let me explain this by referring to, by giving an example of. Okay, or you can say, take the case of, take the case of. Or you can say, a good example of this is, a good example of this is. And the last one, I'd like to give an example to illustrate my point. I'd like to give an example to illustrate my point. Okay? And the next group is when you want to move on to another main point. When you move from one idea to another, you can say, let's now consider, blah, blah. Let's now consider. Or, I'd like to move on to. I'd like to move on to. Oh, now let's have a look at. Let's have a look at. And the last expression, the next aspect of the topic I wish to consider is. The next aspect of the topic I wish to consider is. ممكن أحكي the next opinion I wish to consider is. The next advantage I wish to consider is. Okay, depends on your topic. Now to generalize, to give to talk generally, okay, you can say generally speaking, so. أو in general terms, أو as a rule, أو in most cases, so you can use these expressions to generalize some ideas or to generalize things. Okay? Now, to sum up the main points, to summarize the main points that you've discussed, you can say, okay, to recapitulate, and this means to summarize or to sum up, but any different word. أو you can say to sum up, أو therefore, أو as a result, or if I can just sum up, and you summarize your idea, and the last expression, thus we can say that, so and so. Okay? Okay, let's now see what we should do at the very end of the presentation. Of course, we should invite questions. We should ask the audience if they have any questions that they would like to ask. And to invite questions, you can use any of the following. For example, that concludes our presentation. However, I am or we are happy to answer any question. Okay? Or you can say, are there any questions? Or please feel free to ask questions. And the last one, I am or we are happy to take questions. Okay? Okay, in this part I include two links, two YouTube video links. The first one is titled How to Give a Presentation in English, Basic English Phrases. It's just an opportunity to you to revise these phrases and listen to them from a native American English speaker. Okay? It's very interesting. And the second video is a comparison between two presentations, good presentation vs bad presentation. It's very interesting, very helpful. Please make sure you watch both of these videos, especially the second one, and yeah, good luck. I'm sorry, you will find these links in a separate Word file, and you can access this file online on your Moodle. Okay? Okay, this is the end of our lecture today. I hope everything is clear, and if you have any questions, we can discuss them in our next Zoom lecture. Have a nice day, and thank you.